Go. We'll get into particulars as we go along. This is the 25th IWAR Gold Strategy Workshop. Welcome all who are taking part. And if you're watching later, we have Thanksgiving coming, so a little bit of rush week. So here goes. All right. First off, as always, I kind of outline what we do here. This is the holds, and the big thing about the holds in IWA is you want to track the values and follow the values. Don't follow the holds. Don't fall in love with a hold and be like, oh, this hold's always good, because eventually everyone but 25 and 90 will let you down. So here, kind of a chart that just shows what the holds have done in this year. I have averages, and the averages are not so much for determining anything crazy. When I stack them up, as you'll see over here, I rank them according to average. So you can see a hold's been historically low. And my thing is that, well, if it's historically good, I want to use it. It actually works the opposite. When I see, let me get everybody in here. When I see a hold that is drop, so I will, go with that one. In this case, what I'm looking at for coming cycle, gold, is we've just seen drops. This over here. We saw iron go 29.26 and steel, and I will say this every show until it's not proven correct. If you're playing in steel, and if you're not using the previous cycle's drop from gold, you're wasting your time. 5 of the last 6 cycles, they've used it. So if you're playing steel, it's gotta be easy. I don't know. I I don't follow like diamond, bronze, and jade. It probably should. So in this case, what we're going to do is twofold. One, just talk about those, and then another theory we had, which we've been running. This came from Ryan Patrick out of IWL. If iron and steel use the same number, so like 29, 26, 29, 27, don't use 29 in your gold drop. I tried it a few times and it worked once or twice, so I'm going to go with it again. So I'm going to do is, and again, what it comes down to here, you can see like the color coding here, I try to eliminate everything with yellow. So in the sake of this argument, I'm going to erase, or not erase, but I'm going to rule out 29, 28. So all the 29s are off the table. And that's only because I'm playing this theory, the hunch that if you have the same value drop in iron and steel, they won't do it in gold. Could they? Sure. It's the only 29 left on the table. I'm going to rule it out just to save myself some time. And I'm going to try to go hard on a 28 related drop. If you look here, you see that 16 cycles ago, 28's dropped as a pairing. 3 were 28, 27, 10 for 28, 26. Even 3 is rare. You do see it, but not all the time. And 10 ago for 28, 26, 11 cycles for 27s, and 5 for 26s. So if this is your first time watching, you're going, what the double dropped? What the hell is all this? In the IWA, you're picking 10 holds. And I see this in the IWA a lot where guys will say, well, yeah, but many times they could bring one of the holds up. No, they won't. It'll happen, but we'll see it coming. We have the luxury in gold of seeing what happens in iron and steel. So think of it like the beach at a tsunami. The tide goes out way farther. So the iron and steel will show us kind of a warning of, the tide going out. We'll see the drops coming, the crazy drops. I don't think we're going to see it in 2020 unless it's the very last cycle, which could happen. I got an email today from IWA asking me if I had an online link to a site that had all the all the strategies for 2020 for all the federations. And oftentimes players have this theory that, well, that IWA is doing this to screw with us. They're really messing with us, whatever. Like, dude, they don't even keep their own holds information for like more than 3 and 4 months. So there's no master plan. It's just some people pulling the lever, the numbers coming out, and them raking in the dough. So don't put too much thought into it that way. So what I've done here is, and usually I'll fill these holds as we go along. I did it ahead of time because I kind of figured, it takes so much time to pick all the holds. I'll do that ahead of time. And this time I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the bottom 5. So when we get to that in a second, or a few seconds, you'll see that. I should pause, cover a couple of things. One, this is the IWAR Gold Strategy Workshop, the 25th one. And we are also related to the IWAR Network in the IWA. If you're watching this, most likely you're in it. If you're not, then join. The two casts we just recorded, we missed one. Things are getting really busy. Of course, we have the holidays coming, so I'm really jamming up. I just wanted to mention that, you know, we're always here to help. So if you have a question that we don't answer on the show, or you want to see us talk more about in a future show, like last time I talked about tag teams and flowing, because people asked about that. We just had the Bound for Glory, Tag Team Derby, and Triple D Cup go into their final two this coming cycle. So make sure your strats are good, because if you're in those finals, the winner of those matches will get a title shot. We just had a Match Mania post earlier today or yesterday. So congrats to, I think it was John Woodson, NBL, who had the Van Loves and racked a bunch of titles, so, and won it overall. So very cool that a rookie won a Match Mania. That's pretty damn impressive. I will once again ask that if you haven't not yet gone to the link, it's on the IWAR Network Facebook page. I'll try to post a link in this post, and vote for the year-end award nominees. Just kind of briefly talk about it. This is the time of year when you submit all your nominations for who you think the best wrestler was, for like promos, you know, most popular, most hated, match, feud, etc. And what you do now makes my job easier. I was hoping to have enough nominations to crank these out early and have more time to vote. Unfortunately, I'm not going to have that. I got 19 responses. We got 160 some odd players in this IWAR network. Sorry, guys, I can't do it. As it is, I'm kind of like trying to cut back and condense my roster and get things more minimalized. So I just, you know, I need input from people. So if you can take the time to do it, great. If you haven't, oh, someone here. Everyone's still here. Okay, random pop-up. If you haven't voted yet, please do. I was going to try to get it up for 12-1. It's not going to happen. I just don't have the time to do it. So we're shooting for 12-22. So the voting will be probably over the course of like a week. It'll be crammed, it'll be fast, but unfortunately, them's the breaks, kids. I can't make nominations up off the top of my head. The theories, I talk about theories. Every show I talk about theories. So down here, we have a list of theories. So I'll go over them real quickly. One I talked about, that the same value in iron steel drops with 29s this cycle. Avoid it. It's worked twice now, so that's 2 times. Next, 5 out of 6 that is steel. Use the same drop as the gold previous cycle. Actually, that was an old one, so I should update that. So that just means that if you're saving yourself some time, you're trying to really do is whittle down your options to, like, if you have one wrestler like Dwayne is Mike Sebastian, or you know, some of the guys that have one wrestler. That's hard because you're giving one strategy. You know, I really that's tough. It's admirable. The other ones here, the 25 value will repeat every other cycle when it comes down to it. So it just happened. If I bring this up here to kind of give you some ideas. You'll see that this 25 at 12 came up, and that was it. Now, go back here, see it repeated. So I throw it out there every so often and give it a shot. This time through, you know, it's 8 and 12. I lean less towards 12 and more towards, I'm sorry, not 12, more towards 45 or 53. I just, you know, the average thing I talked earlier in the show about, you know, oh, this is a much better average. Well, yeah, 45's been better than 53. I got a feeling the curve is going to come with a 45, so maybe. And finally, the IWA will repeat same drop within 2 or 3 cycles, very rarely. That's still the case. That's why I eliminated the 2 cycle ago drops. Now over here, move this around. All right. So here we have our options. And you have the 29s, 29-28 combos, the 28s, the 28-27s, the 28-26s, the 27s. Oh, someone's here. Hello, welcome. Oh, joining. All right. There we go. Welcome aboard. By the way, I will post this video either later tonight or tomorrow morning. So you'll have all the rest of the week to watch it and mull over your ones. Convince yourself to not do it, do it, do it, not do it. So that's the game we play. We pull our hair out going, no, I'm sure this is going to happen. Then you go, no, no. And then like the reward comes out and you're like, I knew it. Exactly. All right. So over here, we have the values. Stop it. This chart over here is what the cycle, that value, the cycle before. So this part here, people ask about this all the time and say it's kind of confusing. So what I've done is I've made each of these values, I show the previous 3 cycles where they came from. So what that means is not what hold they came from, what value. So the 25 hold, previous cycle were 29 points. Now the 29 before that doesn't mean the 25 hold, it means a 30-point value. So it's a way of, you're really going towards what the value does and seeing, so if I go like, a better example might be, okay, 30 for like a lot of the year came from 27. You might say, well, how do you know that? Well, that's because I'm a mad nerd and I have no life. If I go down here, you'll see this is all the holds, the values, and then this is where they went to. So you can kind of see, okay, so 25s, we're going to 28, 29, 27, 29, and so forth. It's just a feature. Now this chart, if you want to pause it or take a better look at it, you can. So you can kind of get the idea. Same thing for the bottom 5. So for example, 45s have gone, one gone to 43, one gone to 44 all year long. Does that mean it can change? Sure. But I like to say you can play it safe or you can roll the dice. It's your choice. I'm doing 2 examples of this coming cycle. So what I've done is for my particular wrestlers, I have decided to go these 3 in particular. They all have league title shots. Barry and Alec von Schnapp in CWL, and Barry Stevens in the BBL are both in the running for Wrestler of the Year. So these points are important. There's 2 cycles left in 2020, so I've got to make sure I score as many points as possible. So a few things you can do. One, if you're trying to score points, challenge a regional champion. Enter the Battle Royal. Challenge a TV champion if you're qualified. And if you're in the top 5, don't forget, if you're ranked in the top 5 contenders, you have to send in the match for it to be played out. So if you're like sitting at number 3 contender and you don't play it, and then they play the matches and you don't get a title shot, and it wasn't in your matches, it's on you. If you sent it to them and said, hey, play this match, and they didn't play it, they'll play it through. But that's a whole lot of works. Let me note to myself. So what I'm doing here is an example of rolling the dice versus playing it quote-unquote safe. So what I'm doing with Atari and Barry is I'm going to say 28, 26 could be a real, I feel good about that. So I got Barry with 45, 46. I have Atari with 5 and 45. And then I gave Alec both 28s. Now that's the roll of the dice. 28s haven't dropped at the same time in a while. So they're kind of due. But to use that on a non-tag team wrestler, he's part of a 6-man team, but to give a double drop to a wrestler with a title shot is kind of a crazy thing to do. You know what? I'm going to do it. Just going to do it. I'm going to try. I'm not going to do it with all my wrestlers. Although I only have 3 I only have 3 league title shots a cycle, so kind of pittance. I earlier in the year, one of my earlier shows, I had I think 7 regional shots, or I had like 7 or 8 title shots. I don't think I converted any of them, so that was a bummer. Because you always say, well, if you have that many shots, I would suggest you take a lot of swings to the fences and go for the big report hit, or you can play it safe. So what I've done here is I've pre-filled out the front 10 on all these wrestlers. So you see here I have the chart showing the perfect point flow, 30s, 29s, 28s, etc. That there is the way I stacked these. This here is going to be the idea as a map that I use for where I put my holds, because he's in a 6-man trio, so it's like where I put his holds versus the other guys. When I talked last time about the tag team flows, and I'll talk about 6-man flows in a future episode. I'm not great with 6-man. I can do okay league-wise, but I've never, ever won. I'm sorry, no, I take it back. I've won with 6-man once. So not the best trio player. Tag team, decent, but, it's been a while. Been a down year for me. So to get back to this, what I'm looking here on the bottom 5 is I'm looking at the bottom 5 holds here. So I'm going to make this blow up here. And we're going to talk turkey when it comes to, I said that out loud. We're going to talk turkey about the bottom 5. Apologies to terrible dad jokes. So let me get that out of the way. So over here we have 45, which is 73.66. And I've already talked about the IWA kind of goes against your thinking sometimes. So for example, 66 has been pretty good up until last cycle was 42, but which isn't the worst. You know, if you get 42, it's better than 41. Whereas 83, I'm kind of tanking it. So you might say to yourself, well, if I'm going to go by numbers and look at, you know, what the most recent history is, you know, is a better average over the last, you know, 15 cycles or 14 cycles, whatever, 15, sorry. You know, what should I do? So here's where you roll the dice either way. So you can say, I'm going to go 83 at 43 or the 43 option or 67. It can be a hunch. You know, I always say go with your gut. If your gut tells you play 83 because that's the one that's been more consistent early over time, or should we do, okay. If you want to say 67 has been more reliable, that's fine too. The thing is, it's good about the IWA, and I think people don't think about this enough when it comes to the IWA as a whole, is don't think of this like football or basketball or even cards. Actually, cards is appropriate. It's more about golf. It's how you play against yourself, because we're all in the same boat with the holds. No one has an edge. I love people that tell me things like, oh, I got the system that works. Win the world title. The only time I've ever seen this, I always give credit to Mark Duchesne, was one of the Murano Memorials. Not only did his tag team win the tournament, but in the final cycle, the final round, they won the IWA tag belts. That's kind of calling your shot. That's the Babe Ruth calling your shot. So that's impressive. But, you know, wrapping the year up, the Wrestler of the Year award races, like in the NWL, Tyler Dresden has 200 points. He's only like the 13th wrestler to break 200 points. Hawaiian Heartthrob has 170 points. Hillbilly Kevin has 150, 40. He's up there too. So any of the three of those could be within striking distance. With 2 shots at a league championship left, you know, it could happen. So if you're big on those races, now some of the races have things like in the BRL, the Wrestler of the Year gets a belt. Last year, R.A. Rude got a belt, and he edged Adam Cash, my guy, of course, by 10 points. So, you know, every point counts. I can tell you personally, I was annoyed because with Barry Stevens in the BBL last cycle, I don't know why, but I didn't challenge a regional champion. I didn't. I should have, you know, and he left 10 points on the table because there were regional champions with fewer points than he had, and he would have had a regional belt. And now that might say, well, that's 10 points, it's not a big deal, but every point counts. So, if you're ever looking for what the points values associated with the titles are in the IWAR, if you go to the IWAR magazine, the second to last section is the rankings. And you'll see on the bottom is a little guide, like 50 points for league and 25 for TV, 10 for regional or battle royal, yada, yada. So let me see. I'm gonna pause here and see if anybody has any questions, or if they don't. Okay, I had a chat button here before. Oh, here it is. Chat, one chat person. Hey there. Okay. Anyone notice? Anyone notice that the same drop combo from only 2 cycles ago hit an iron? Combo dropping just 2 cycles after is rare. Anything worth reading into? Okay, that's a good question to bring up. That's from Larry. Larry. You may know his work at the CWL. Check out the Conquest Wrestling League. My plug. So again, if you notice trends, that's things that usually make a difference. We had 2 cycles or 2 feds to go through to see it. So could the same cycle drop 2 cycles in a row? It could be. I just personally always rule them out. It's very rare that the IWA, you know, will hit us with a double drop like that. So that's a good question. Thank you, Larry. So getting back into this, so in the bottom 5, now where I always, if you settle on the 44, it's 90 and 85. I'm going to say because 90, if you look here on this chart, 90 went to 43 2 cycles ago. it didn't hit 45 this time. So if you noticed back early in the year, it went 45, 43, 45, 43. I'm going to say it's going to go back up again. Because I think they're going to do something quirky with the 43. And for whatever reason, when they do something quirky with one area, they kind of leave everything else, status quo. So I'm going to say going with 90 confidently. If it's 85, well, 90 is not going to drop below 43. So if I'm going to eat a point or 2 points, I'd rather, bank on 90 and be let down than bank on 85 and hit 42 or 41. Oh, by the way, 44s, generally speaking, don't often hit 41 as much as they do 42. So it's kind of a safer bet, at least in my experience. 43s, though. All right. So speaking of 43s, 83, 67. Use your judgment. Whatever you feel is a better call. As far as that, 67 is kind of all over the place, kind of coming back up. So I just realized I was doing 66 earlier for my 83, 66. I meant 67. Sorry. I'm not tired. You're tired. But the big one to talk about here is, do you want to use a 42 at 13 or 41? Now, I always say 41s are the better bet because it's going to go up. 42s are the gamble because it can go to 44, even rarely sometimes 45s. But for this case, I'm going to say almost always go 41. That's my personal advice, my call. So in this case, if you look at our 41s, 62, 61. Yuck. They're both, God, it's awful. It's like broccoli ice cream. You're like, this is a pistachio. So 61 or 62, one's going to go up to 43. For a while, you notice 41s were going to 44. It seems to be going back in the ballpark of 43s. I would say still a good bet. Now 42, we have 63 and 65. 65 has been Shitsville for a while. Oh, so Steve in here. Welcome, Steve. Looking at the bottom five here, Steve, thank you for joining. Any questions, throw them in the chat. I'll try to grab them. One's there yet. It's fine. So I was talking about here was looking at your 13 spot. Because again, your 15 spot, your 14, 15 should be your previous 45s. You'll notice with Alec in this example that he has 90 there. That's because he's part of a trio, and to try to maximize on points, I've got them flowing 90s. So it should be hopefully. If not, I'll say that's 2020, baby. So getting into this 63, 65. So 63, pretty good recently. Not a 42. So you go, okay, if I'm choosing 63 of the two, is the one better than 65. But you can also say, well, that's just what they want you to do. They get you right where they want you, because they're going to go 65 and put the screw to you. That's the IWAR, baby. Really. I will say, if you roll the dice, so if I was going to say, okay, I'm going to go 42. What the hell? So if I go 65 with Atari, and with Barry, I go 63. Because what I do sometimes is I'll pick a wrestler that I have a title shot with. And in this example, I have like 3 wrestlers. So I have Alec, who I'm rolling the dice with. He has both 44s, and he has both 28s as a drop. That's a big gamble. Atari, I am kind of rolling the dice. 65 could stay a stinker, but it could be due to go up. And Barry's getting 63 at 13 because that's been more reliable than 2 holds. It could bounce back up. It really comes down to your gut. I mean, no matter how many times you tell yourself, well, this is perfect, this is great, you're going to doubt it until you see the post pop up, 3 o'clock on next Tuesday. I am off on Tuesdays now, so I'm actually be around, and if you on the IWAR Network email, when I get the results from IWAR, they also send me the strategy totals. So you can see who scored what, how many matches there were, how many battle royal entries, the tag team strat totals, the 6-man strat totals. If you want to be on that and you're not getting that now, email me, riley1d20@gmail.com, and I'll add you to the list and send it to you when it comes out. Let me see here. No one in the chat, that's fine. So just to kind of refresh while I'm thinking of it. So over here, this is from last time. So I'm just going to use this as an example to show you. This was, get out of there. This was showing how a basic tag team flow worked. And you'll see here, the 29s represent the values. So this is previous cycle. So if I was doing it this time, actually do it real quick, because this is how easy it is to do. So if you have a tag team, you're like, oh, I have a tag team. I want to send a tag team in there and do something. So for 30, you'd put 29s at the first spot. So that would be 1 and 31. And you mirror them. So essentially, if you have one hold, I just did it wrong. I'm not tired. And then 28s. So 28s are 45 and 22. And then go over here, 22 and 45. I've got the 30s. And what you're looking to do, 25 and 33, is get your maximized potential points. Okay. Down here, the 25s were 8 and 12. 12 and 8. Down here, we have 90 and also 85, 85 and 90. Then we have, I'm not tired. 8,500. See what that way does with that. Then we have 67 and 83. And I'm doing this really fast, but it's just to kind of give you an idea of how this works out. Did I say 67? Or is it 67? Bloody hell. Okay. And then down here, we have our 45s of 73 and 66. Okay. So looking at this quickly, and I left the 26s and 27s as an option. What you're hoping to do with a flow when it comes to tag team wrestling is by mirroring the options, right? So 25s at, in this case, 5 and 6. If one of them goes to 29, you've got that spot, 2 29s together. Remember, when it comes to tag team wrestling, your strategy for your first wrestler and your second wrestler, they'll take a look at the holds at 1, at 2, at 3, and so forth. And the higher point value hold goes towards your team score. Same with 6 men. So you want to make sure you maximize those points as much as possible. I often see every so often a run of tag team success in the NWL, and it's because somebody figures out how to do it. And once they do it, they run wild. And a lot of people say, well, I want to have better tag team options, or I want to run a tag team as well as my singles wrestlers. What do you suggest? And I always say diversify. Like if you go with one combo with one guy, don't use the exact same holds. Because here's the thing. If you use the exact same setup, the only difference is the 15th hold. Because one of those holds should hit 44, and it's a tag team. That's the 15th spot for flow, right? I have it right here at the little, what the flow looks like. So in theory, they're going to have very similar point values. So if it's like 493, 494, the Von Schnapps for years, I did that with them. Just, did it and set up. The past year, I've done a little more experimenting because the IWA kind of got away from the predictability of the tag team setup, and it's been a little more difficult. All right, it is midnight. They're going to cut me off any moment now. So I will open the floor up here if anyone has any questions in the chat. Well, if I could type, I would type, but my computer's being quirky because my computer sucks. Good, I hope you heard it, AI. This is the December cycle coming into play, and then we're going to go into the holiday cycle. So we have pay-per-views coming up. This coming cycle, the Armageddon Revelations is coming from the CWL. That's in progress, being written up. We're going to have Battlecade coming up. Battlecade pay-per-view matches are going to be determined by this coming cycle. So if you have a match at Battlecade in the BRL, this is the cycle to win. We also have the finale for certain title series and things like that. The best of 7 series between Punk Rock Mike and Eric the Eliminator Endgame is coming out of this cycle. So there's a lot going on. I hope everyone's had a pretty good year. If it hasn't been a good year, take what you can learn from this. Hopefully I can help. There's a lot of veterans out there who will be happy to help, oddly enough. I always gotta laugh because you'll see sometimes the big roster folks be like, so-and-so showed up with 500 wrestlers and it's not fair. And it's like, yeah, but if you take 50 players and teach them how to play with 50 wrestlers each, then all of a sudden, boom, So let's see, any more questions? I guess not. Well, that's all right. We're pretty much out of time anyways. I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. Feed yourself, stay safe. My own personal plans got kiboshed because my sister's family got sick. So even though we're part of a small pod, if you will, my parents and I were like, not happening. So alternate plans. But hopefully everyone will stay safe. I know it's getting crazy out there, illnesses. So stay safe as you can. Check your strats for doubled holds. Don't double the hold. It'd be horrible to have a great potential great cycle get ruined by doubling holds. And here's a final look at the options. So hopefully something will hit. Yeah, there it is. See, meeting will end in 10 minutes. Oh, I got 10 minutes. So here's what we'll do. I got 10 minutes. We'll do a quick 6 minutes. All right, so let's talk about some other things going on in the IWA and IWAR in general, because I got the bulletins right here. The IWL. The IWL's pay-per-view, Starrcade, is going to be in the 132nd issue, which is 2 issues away. Will be the matches and the write-up in the 133rd issue. That's coming up. There's a lot of cool stuff happening with that behind the scenes. Battle Royal, I talked about. I can talk about this. This is a sort of a not a spoiler, but we're going to put this to a vote. We had the Battle Royal League had a IWA credit prize for years and years and years. And it was like basically coming down to about 6 of us that kept winning it. And it was kind of frustrating because players would be like, oh, I'd love to win it, but I'm never going to win it. So we moved the Battle Royal League credit prize to the Battle Royal winner. And it was great. A lot of people won it. And a couple of players said to me, like, it's a lot of money. It's great. You think you'll ever have the league win it again? So we got to discussion, got to be talking. So what I'm going to do is put it to a vote. And the idea would be to split it. So it's about $50 every month. Anyway, it is $50 every month. They're so active. So you get 25 for league champion, 25 for Battle Royal, which would be still pretty cool. Is still, really good prize. So that vote will be coming. So if you're watching us now, there's some news for you. There's an elapsed time thing there. That's cool. We got a chat here. Breaking. Oh, okay. So what is the deadline date to move to leagues for the draft? Okay, so that's a great question. So IWAR draft, folks, whether you're in the NWL or any other league, drafted to a league, you only have to be there, or your deadline to get there is January. So if you're finishing your storylines, your feuds out, that's cool. You can finish up through December and then holiday cycle and then transfer over. I highly recommend checking out the bulletins online, reading up on what's going on. So when you get in there, you hit the ground running. Some players will leave early. You can do that. A reminder to the NWL players, if you're in the NWL and you graduate at any time, you get a $12 match deal for $6. That's like our graduation present to players. So that's getting, 20 matches and 20 scrub wins for $6. That's half price. You get it one time when you leave the NWL, but it's a good deal. And it's a really great way to jump into a league and hit the ground running. And I always say, if you go in with one wrestler, challenge your usual champion, get in the Battle Royal, get in the mix as fast as you can, call people out, go in with a splash. You don't have to make necessarily to be the, Chris Jericho debut, but you want to make a splash and make an appearance. When you go in, a couple of things kind of keep in mind. You go into a new league, you're going to need to get a new ID. So when you do your matches, you'll put Senya Lucha versus number 501 or 502 or 503 or whatever it may be. And then when you get your information back, your packet comes back, you'll get an ID number for your wrestler. ID numbers change every league you go to. So if you keep changing leagues, you'll get a new ID number every time you go in there. They don't assign them they're just kind of random. So, and trust me, people always ask, I want number 1 or I want number 69. And they're like, no, we just give you whatever you get. So there's that. Exactly. Let's see here. What else? Okay, so CWL I talked about. that pay-per-view is coming up in this coming issue. You'll see the write-up. CWL actually has 3 pay-per-views a year, so a little more spread out. And we're still hammering out some of the details. Pay-per-views, things like that. Bloodbath League, something to get steam, picking up, more people coming in. There's a lot of controversy with the titles. It isn't. Zoom time.
Thank you.
I would recommend if you're going into a new league, the biggest thing is do your homework, scout your opponents, see who you might want to work with. If someone you notice is in there and they're a good trash talker and they're not heavily engaged in the feud, get in the market there. NWL, a couple players. Quick point was that asked, oh, there's a block in the trash talk section that says if you want some assistance, you can send your comments to me and I'll package them up for you. So over the years, I helped different players do this because either they had a situation where they weren't able to do what they wanted to do with imagery or appearance or, cool things like that. Or it was just like, hey, can you help me out? So I did that for like Bombero, who just left a little bit ago, Dresden, some of the players, Masahiro Funaki, I gotta say it right, but they just send me their TT, I package it up for them. And also what some people have done is they've said to me, hey, could you design my wrestler in WWE 2K, which I did. Jericho Pale, I hope so. I hope so. That's going to be great. The comment with Jericho Dresden popping in. Tyler Dresden, who I might say was the #1 pick by this guy. It's like, I wanted a #1 pick, and I had a couple of other people I wanted to pick, and I'm like, I'm not going to wait till I'm 4th pick. I'm going to pick him right away. But again, getting involved, getting active, contact your commissioner. I would highly recommend emailing your new commissioner if you have a new commissioner. So if you're jumping from the NWL to the BBL, Bloodbath League has a board, like the IWAR Network board. They have a chat group, and chat groups are a good way to stay in contact. I don't use one for the BRL because it's so big, and I've had experience with some of the bigger chat groups, and what ends up happening is people will run wild with the chat, going wildly off topic. And it's like, I will say this though, if you're in the NWL chat group, when you graduate, I move you into the NWL alumni chat group, which is it's not as active, but it gets in spurts here and there. But it's just that way the people in the NWL locker room are NWL players, and it keeps it a little fresh. Let's see, I think we're good. Yeah, so I'm going to pack this one up. We're going to call it a night, and I'm going to finish doing my promos and everything else. I've got a busy week ahead of me. So I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. Thank you for watching, and always leave comments if you like the show.